Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ethan. Today I'm going to be modifying my new microscope for SMD soldering projects and so the problem I'm having is I have 3 power supplies I need to plug into the wall to run this thing at one time. A lot of people know that I hate we call these wall warts, and they're annoying. So the monitor, the camera, and also this little controller box here all run off of 12 volt DC. So I thought I would buy this small 12 volt power supply. This one outputs 4.2 amps. I'm just going to mount this to the back of the monitor somewhere. Basically, for the 2 wall warts, I'm going to just cut off the wall wart, or cut the wires short too, run them into one of these, and then I'll have one wire coming out going to the power supply. And then for the LED controller here, this takes 120 volt AC and converts it to DC, which I don't need any of that, but I do still want to keep the potentiometer and the switch. So I'm going to take out the inside of this, use one of my little project boards up there, solder on the potentiometer, to some wires. Same thing with the switch, and just have it run straight DC through there. Should work fine. And then I'll output power coming out of that into this as well. And then I'll have one wire coming from this power supply to the wall. So that's the plan. I'll flip this thing around, bring you guys in a little bit closer, and let's get started. So here we have the back of the microscope. This is the back of the monitor. You can see I already zip tied the HDMI cord up out of the way. So here's what I'm thinking. I got these 2 holes for mounting the back of the monitor that are just wider than this. So I could probably run zip ties through this and just hold that there. Because I was thinking maybe drilling into the back of this aluminum, but I don't know. This is a lot easier. I can just run a zip tie straight through there and hold this thing up. I think it'll be fine. And then, yeah, I'm going to give myself some extra slack because this microscope moves up and down, and I might want to change the height of the monitor sometimes. So I'm going to give myself, like, I don't know, that much slack or so. So yeah, let's go ahead and cut this here. And then this one is the power for the monitor. So this one is going to stay with the power supply. So I'll probably cut it there. Give myself a little bit of extra. All right, throw these freaking things out. I hate those. And I actually have a ferrule crimping tool right here. I'm going to crimp all of these to make them nice whenever they go. Oops, I put them underneath because they just press into these. There's no clips or nothing. You just press them in and they hold. So I want them to have a nice, good connection. So let's go ahead and all right, positive, negative.
Same thing, positive, negative.
I'll give it a little more. The ferrule crimping tool, the wire runs straight through. So you can just cut off the end of the wire that's hanging out. All right, I'll do the LED controller board separate because that's a project in itself. All right. These kits for the ferrule crimping tools are very cheap. It's like 30 bucks or something, and it makes your projects a lot better. All right, so these are fairly small, so I might be able to get away with maybe a 20 gauge. Let me see. Maybe actually smaller. Yeah, 22 gauge. Will actually work. You just slide it through, and this thing just auto ratchets. It's pretty cool. You just put her on. I do it a few times. All right, so here you can see the crimped part and then the wire hanging through the end. So I'm just going to cut off the excess wire. Just like that. You have two clean connections. And then I'm going to do all positives into one. These will just press in just like that. You can see it's nice and secure. And I'll do all negatives into another. Nice and secure. So I'll have 3 wires going in, 1 wire coming out to the power supply. Just like that. I will save you the hassle of watching me do the other one here. For this next bit of the project, we're going to be working on the LED controller box here. So currently, like I said, it takes 120 volt AC in, and it rectifies it and turns it to 12 volt DC. So we no longer need that because I have a straight 12 volt DC power supply that already does that. So we're just going to be outputting straight DC from here through the box into the LEDs. So, but I do want to keep the potentiometer and the power switch to turn it on and off because I don't want it to turn on immediately as soon as you plug it in. So let's take this thing apart. All right, let's see what's in here. All right, so right away we got things connecting it. Hang on, let me pull these out. There we go. All right, so what I need to do is desolder this cord because I'm going to reuse it. Desolder the potentiometer here, and then desolder the power switch, and then the rest of this we don't really need. So I'm going to go ahead and heat up my FR301 Hago desoldering gun and get this thing taken apart. I have mounted it into my PCB holder. Got my desoldering gun. Let's figure out which wires to desolder. So the power cord should be the 2 big blobs right here. All right, here's the negative. There's the positive. There's the power cord out. Flip her around. Oop, crap. And then looks like these 2 here are for the potentiometer. So let's get those out. I don't have much holding those on. Just literally fell out. All right, and it looks like these 2 way over here are the power switch. There we go. So now we can get rid of this AC to DC rectifier because we no longer need it. We just need this, and I'm going to solder these two switches to a project board. As you can see, I got my project board mounted to this PCB holder. I have a fuse, which currently I have a 1/2 amp. Should be enough. We'll see. I'll test it out. So what I'm thinking is I'll have the DC power coming from the power supply into this side of the fuse through there, outputting, and it'll then go to one of the legs on the switch. The switch will then output to the potentiometer, and from there it will go out into the LEDs. So yeah, let's get this thing flipped over and start soldering. Get some flux on here. So now we have a mounted fuse. So move some things here. So now let's get one of the legs of the switch put on there. So I'm just going to come, it's in this top row right here. So I'm just going to put the wire in just like that. It's going to be a little tricky here because I got to kind of hold it. So actually, let me tin my soldering iron first. Put that through there, and I'll just tack it. Just to hold it. Okay, now that it's on there, come back and do it correctly. There we go. So now we will solder on the other end, couple down. Let me get my soldering iron tinned up. Let me get some flux on here. I'm not sure if I like this flux yet. It doesn't come out very well. We'll see. Maybe it's just because it's brand new.
Alright, now.
Power running through the switch, and I think I will grab a wire because the way this is going to land on the board, I'm going to have it mounted like this. The potentiometer is going to land somewhere down here, so I'm going to run a wire from the output of the switch over to here somewhere, and then the power will then travel in one wire and out the other. So yeah, let's get a wire cut and made for there. So let's go ahead and flip this thing over. Stuff the wire up through here, maybe. So there we go. All right. I will get my flush cutters and cut that off once I get it soldered on here. Oop, plunger came out. Get some flux on here. There we go. All right. So now we have power coming from the output. So what I think I'm going to do now, I don't want to run wire through all these, so I'm just going to bridge each point with solder. So I'm going to have the DC power coming in to the very first point right here. So I'll leave those empty, but I need power coming across these two here, and then the power jumping from here to the first leg of the switch, and then right there. Let's see. It's very difficult with a camera, I must say. Come on. It's not wanting to jumper. Alright, we're going to abandon that plan. I'm just going to run some small wires. No big deal. I think just because I have the wires already on top here, I'm going to run the wires on the bottom and make it easier. So let's clean up all that solder that I just put on there. All right. Yeah. All right. Yep, let's do that. That's why this is called a project board. So I actually changed my mind. I have some of this enameled copper wire. Should be enough to handle the current of the LEDs. So what I'm going to do is just cut off a little bit, just like that. I'm just going to put it down through. Just form a little, let me get my tweezers. This stuff's hard to handle, it's pretty small. I'll just cut off the excess once I'm done. There. All right. So you can see I got a jumper right there. I'll just solder on the underside. There we go. Clean this up as I go here, I guess. Cut off all these high bits.
All right.
So, got the first one jumpered. So next, all I'm gonna have to do is have power coming in to the first one here, and I'll just jump over to that. So we got power going from there. Now I just need to jumper these two together. Let's see if I can do that. Shouldn't be a problem since the solder isn't falling through. There we go. That's jumpered. So then we have power going through the fuse. Yeah, okay. We'll try something else here. All right, so you have these two legs right here. They're both for the post. That's just to secure it. I only need to run from the very end one right there over to this. So I already have a small piece of wire. I shall just use tweezers for this. I don't know why I insist on using my hands. I'll just hold it on there like that.
Okay.
There's that. This should just bend off and break. Oop, if I don't slide the whole thing off first. Okay. So we have power jumpered from the end of the fuse to the first leg of the switch. Then we have power running through the switch. So I just need to jumper these two right here together. I'm going to add some more solder to those to make it a little easier. Get this wire unstuck from my finger. Oh, crap. I didn't support the bottom. Alright, well, let's put that wire back in. Alright. Still have a small piece of wire to work with here. If I can, I'm trying to stay out of the way of the camera, that's the difficult part. Alright, I'm just holding this by my hand. That's annoying. Alright, got that one on. Now let's support the bottom of this time. Add some more solder to that. I don't like that connection. There. Much better. Alright. Now, this should just bend off and there we go. So, now all I should have to do is put DC power coming in right there. It should travel all the way through. And then this will then output to wherever I land the potentiometer. So, it's actually been about a day or so. I actually ran out of time the other day while I was working on this. So where I left off, I was going to join this wire to the potentiometer, but I got thinking about it actually. I don't really trust these thin wires to carry the load, so I'm going to use those as a bridge, and I'm going to use solder and just cover that in solder to, you know, give it more of an area to travel through. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we can move on to the potentiometer. Let's solder this thing here. There we go. Basically just using the wire as a bridge. Just adding some mass to it essentially. Alright. Now the current should be flowing in the right direction. Now let's figure out where I want to land this potentiometer. So I think I'm going to do, let's do right there. That'll work. Yeah, flip that over. Bear with me here. Trying to do everything one-handed sucks. Get some solder on here. Here we go. So that's one leg of the potentiometer, and I will do the next one a couple rows over. Don't worry guys, here in about a week I'm getting a fume extractor, I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments talking about it. All right.
That was terrible. Alright, let me just... Here we go.
Really wish working upside down wasn't this hard. Bear with me. I'm sorry.
Alright.
So now, potentiometer is in. As you can see, got the two legs. So I'm going to bring this wire somewhere I'll bring it right above this one here. Okay. So do a little bit longer. Strip that back. This wire doesn't like the... It's got some thick insulation. Let's tin this up a little bit. All right, there's a bit of a blob on the end. That's why it's not going. There. There we go. Okay. So you can see coming all the way over here, and then I'll just bridge these two wires together. And then coming from this wire, I will then go to the LEDs. So yeah, flip this over and solder that. There we go. All right, so I just got looking at this thing again, not even realizing it, but the incoming power is actually coming from this side. When I started making this, I was going to make the incoming power to this top corner here. So instead of redoing all this, I'm going to have to run a wire from this top corner all the way over to here somewhere, so that the power coming in through this hole in the case can then, you know, mount right there. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and do that real quick. Got this wire cut. Let's tin this thing up a little bit. So we will put her down in there like that. Flip this to this side. Let's get that tacked in there for a second until I can get some solder on here. There we go. Tighten this thing back up here. All right. So I will put it somewhere over here in the middle. There. All right. So now it's going to go over there. It's going to look messy, but it'll be functional. There we go. So now we got the incoming power to start over here, so that when I run power from the power supply, you know, the positive, it's going to come a wire from here to here. Then it's going to run through all this, and then it's going to output through this side, which I actually have the original wire here. It's going to come through the case like this, and I can just put it anywhere. I can go to right here, right in front of this one, It should be good. And then I'm just going to run the negative straight across, because I'm only fusing and switching the positive side. So I am actually going to move this out of the way for a minute, because I got thinking about it again. I got this massive hole where the old incoming power is coming in, and I don't want the wires just to be dangling in there. So let's move this out of the way. On the original board, it has this, AC standard jack here, but I can desolder it from the board and just solder my positive and negative to this, and then on the back side solder wires on the inside of the case coming off the back, and I'll just seal this up with something to where you can't touch those wires or whatever. So I'm gonna go ahead and desolder this thing, and yeah, let's get my desoldering gun here. It's a lot of solder. It's gonna take a lot of heat. All right. It appears that is free. Yep. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, on this one closest to me, I'm going to do negative, and this one positive. So let me get some flux put on here. Not sure how well this stuff's going to solder to this, so I'm going to use quite a bit of flux. Standing up soldering right now, so this should be interesting. She's warm, but it worked. Gotta be careful because of the plastic. I'm just trying to basically fill this hole in the middle here.
Alright.
Here we go. Now, let's do the negative wire. I don't know if that's able to be soldered to. This solder is literally just sliding around. See, look. Well, it was when it was warm. Maybe it just takes more heat. I don't want to melt this plastic though. Actually, let's try this again. Alright, so yeah, it just takes a minute to cool down. It holds the heat for a while.
Alright.
Oh, just in time. Alrighty. Let's see how bad I destroyed the plastic. Not bad. Just a little deformation, if I can get it to focus. Maybe not. A little bit of deformation around those ridges, but this should work. So my plan now is to do positive on this side, negative on this side. I've already got like a roll of wire. So let's go ahead and try to tin up these two legs here, see what happens. Don't know how well this is going to work, but it's worth a try. It's all part of the fun, right? Alright. See what happens here. Looks like it's working. All right, let's try getting a wire in there, see what happens here. This should be interesting if it works. For this next one, I'm going to use a little bit of flux, because that side had a little bit more solder on it.
Alright.
All right, I need some more solder. Please ignore all the noises. My girlfriend is upstairs making dinner, I believe. All right, it's not a great connection. I don't really like that. So let's add some more solder if it'll hold. This thing's just sucking the heat right out of my soldering iron. There we go. Okay, that's a good connection there. Back at here. So I have the power cord that I just made mounted in here, and I got the 2 wires stripped. So incoming power I need to join with this wire right here. So I'm just going to put it in there and see if I can do this yet again one-handed. This time I'm gonna turn the wire a little bit. This is difficult, especially with the camera right there. There we go. All right. So, positive is now connected. I think I'm just going to run the negative straight across. So I'm going to bring this, I'll bring it down here just so it's out of the way of everything else. There we go. Trim that real quick. All right. So now we have the incoming power to there. And then now I need to connect the outgoing power, which is the original cord. It'll sit something like that. I went ahead and bridged all the connections on the bottom. So now everything is good all the way up to the potentiometer here. So I need to hook up the outgoing power to this wire right here. So that is going to go right there. I'll just bridge that connection. It's getting a little difficult to work on here. There we go. Bridge that connection. So now we now have positive all the way through from incoming power, which I'll cut this wire to length once I get it figured out. But so now all I gotta do is run negative in line with this one. So Let's come straight over. It looks like it's on this plane right here. Right there. And I can just bridge a wire going straight across to that. There we go. Alright, so now those are good. Now I can move this over to the other side. And just jumper the negative wire straight across. So let's test this out with some voltage. As you can see, I have my benchtop power supply hooked up to my multimeter just to test the voltage before I put it in. So I'm going to turn it on now. I have it set to 12 volts, 0.3, so 300 milliamp, which I mean is enough to send through this. This is a half an amp, so 500 milliamp fuse. I don't want to make it max right away. So as you can see, it's around 12 volts. So let's go ahead and hook this up to the wires and see what happens. Put this over here. All right. Got positive, and we got negative. Let's go ahead and see what happens. All right, it is flowing through. So this should be a center positive post. Oh, that's right. Switch is off. Potentiometer. Not getting anything. Let's try the other way. All right, so that is not working. So let's see. We have power coming in to here. Correct. Coming over to the fuse. So we have power going to there. Power not going to the fuse. All right, so we have a problem going from here to there. Okay, so that's easy enough. Like I said, I did not expect this to work first time. So shut this off and we will flip her over and figure out why it's not working. All right, so as you can see, that's the problem right there. I did not bridge these connections. So that's the whole point of this project board, is learning as I'm going. So I'm going to go ahead and bridge these, and then we'll go back and try it again. Now, we should have everything hooked up as far as I know. We'll see. Let's send power. All right, fuse didn't blow. That's a good sign. Let's check this power coming out. See if it's working. We have 12 volts coming to the connector. See that? Let's turn down the potentiometer halfway or so. Still 12 volts. Now let's flip the switch off. Switch is working. I have the LED that actually goes on my microscope hooked up. Let's turn on some power. Look at that. We have LED. This is a working project. So let's get this thing all mounted up on my microscope. Okay, as you can see, I just went ahead and figured it out off the camera. I just joined two zip ties together. The only problem I'm having now is the the back of the monitor is hitting the zip tie, so it's slightly angled, but that's fine because I can always just turn the monitor wherever I want it. So yeah. So now the power supply is mounted. So let me pull up my chair here. Here is my box that I just made. It's all sealed up. Like I said, I still got to cut this wire to length, but the LEDs are right here. So that'll plug in there. I want this to have enough length. Like I'll give it a little bit, so like that much. Looks good. Okay. Move that out of the way. Let's trim off some of this. Maybe trim off some of this. Let me get the proper tool for this.
There, that's better.
Please ignore all of the noises. I have 3 dogs upstairs. So let's strip these. Remember, got a ferrule crimping tool. So I got to strip a lot. Let me grab my ferrule crimping tool. I'll crimp the 2 ends that I just stripped. Okay, so those are too small. These ones are just right. Okay, so there's that. Move this out of the way. Trim the end. Okay, so now I need to join the power in here. Just like that. Negative in there. All right, now I just need to run power, 110, 120 volt power to this, and then the 2 positive and negative wires down to here. So as you can see, I went ahead and just saved you guys the time, made up the plug going to the power supply and also the 2 wires that are going to send power to everything. But first, I'm going to plug this in, and this has a little voltage adjuster here. I'm going to dial in the voltage to exactly 12 volts before, I try to fry anything. So let's go ahead and plug this in. There we go. Light is green. Go ahead and grab my multimeter. Set her to DC. Let's see what we're getting here. Voltage plus and minus. Yeah, see, she's a little high. 12.14. So I'm going to dial it down a little bit. I mean, that's still more than good, but I want it to be perfect. Okay, 12.04. That's good enough. So now I can plug in these 2 wires, tidy everything up, and this will be a completed project. So as you can see, everything is working, all with just a single power cord. This is some of the shots that I'll be getting with this thing. This is zoomed in. I mean, there's still plenty of room to work under here. So yeah. And I still have plenty of range. Like this thing's crazy. I actually might get a lens that does less zoom, because I want one that you can do like an entire area. So yeah. Oh, also I mounted the LED controller board on the back of the monitor. I decided it was just too much wires hanging down. It didn't look good at all. So yeah, that's this project. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This thing will be getting a lot of use. I actually have a very fun project sitting right here on the floor beside me. That'll be a very exciting one. So